Welcome to the Treasury Update podcast, presented by Strategic Treasurer, your source for interesting Treasury news, analysis, and insights in your car, at the gym, or wherever you decide to tune in.
Welcome back to another episode of the Treasury Update podcast. Today, we're talking about getting your Treasury data to work for you. I'm here with Paul Galloway, Senior Advisor at Strategic Treasurer. Welcome back to the show, Paul.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate being back.
Absolutely. So clearly we need data in order to do our work, and big data is a buzzword. Let's start out by talking about the challenges with big data and the opportunities with big data.
Yeah, sure. So, when you think of data, there's, some components to it. So the amount of data, there's large amounts of data today. Matter of fact, I'll talk about, what that growth looks like. But we're seeing more and more data being produced. It has to be stored somewhere, and there has to be a way to management. So structure of the data is real key. If you're going to use it, you need to have it structured properly so you can, one, access it, but two, be able to actually take the information and interpret it. So data management architecture are some components that are really, really beneficial to have in place when you're managing data. You want to have clear visibility. You want to be able to understand perhaps market behavior or operations or trends. And complexity just continues to grow as more information is being produced. So you have to have a way to store it, and you have to have a way to process it. So technology is really our friend today. And so from a Treasury standpoint, we're eliminating manual processes, we're getting rid of legacy tech, and we're looking at data management, or strong data management, as a driver to modernize Treasury teams. Whether it's forecasting, reporting, or just plain providing visibility to what's going on. And it's becoming more strategic. And when we think of the growth of data is growing or doubling every 2 years. So every 2 years, the amount of information that we're processing today is twice that 24 months later. But the good thing is that technology is keeping up. So the processing power is increasing at a quicker pace. It doubles every 1.5 years. So it's a good thing for organizations that are managing data. You're able to effectively use technology to help support what you're trying to accomplish with the information that you have.
So with this data, what might be some problems that we need to solve to make it more usable and helpful?
That's a great question. So the first area is efficiency. There's data inefficiencies that could drive bad data, or it could be poorly integrated systems. So there's a cost associated with that when there's these kinds of inefficiencies or lack of proper integration. So it can be costly. You might have to purchase data from other sources. You have problems with version control. It could bottleneck processes. So the first area you're trying to improve is efficiency and ensure that you can trust the data. You want to have a trusted source. It's a single source, it's trusted, it's been verified, it's validated. That is super important. So that single source of truth. When we think about Treasury teams today, the integration of a Treasury management system or a Treasury management risk system, it allows the organizations to rely on the information coming out of a TMS, because you are connecting all of your banks to this platform. This platform can manage the data, because it's getting from all your banks, all your accounts, it's getting all the transactions. You'll have clear visibility to it. It'll help support that single source of truth and ensure that it's current and accurate. The other component to this is straight through processing. So it's this idea of an automation of financial processes. So in the case of a TMS, you kind of have that. It's coming from the banks, it's going to the TMS. You can extract the data for a couple end-to-end processes on the organization's back end with your ERP for accounting. The other piece would be reconciliation, as well as you can use that information for forecasting. If the TMS platform you have doesn't have a forecasting tool, you can utilize the information for forecasting. So whether it's front office, middle office, or back office, you're able to have all the components in there. And you think about organizations that maybe make investments, so they're engaging in trading, they're effectuating sales. You have your middle office that does settlements or confirmations or the execution of the sales itself. And then the back office accounts and reports on everything.
Okay, so what might be some tools that can help us solve those problems?
Yeah, so in today's world, technology is a key component. We talked about TMS platforms or treasury aggregators are another treasury technology that's available out there. We're starting to see advances in the technology itself. There's integration of artificial intelligence and machine learning. We're going to see that continue to expand with these technologies. You can utilize AI and ML or machine learning within your own organization outside the TMS. Perhaps you've extracted data and information that's stored in your data warehouse. It's your single source of truth. You can use artificial intelligence to help learn, and what it will do is it will analyze the data and the information. It can provide trends. It can provide information to where you can make decisions. It can help you figure out where there's gaps or there's issues or problems that reside. And it can adapt over time. Machine learning has the capability to analyze from a statistical standpoint. So it can take large batches of data and process that and make predictions of what it might look like in the future. Couple this with the use of business intelligence tools, maybe like Power BI or some other tools out there that you could utilize to take that information and put it into reports, analyses that will help senior managers or leaders within the organization make decisions. Other areas would be around API interfaces. So you're starting to see that there's more demand for API interface between systems and organizations. In particular, what we're seeing today with APIs is integration of bank for both information reporting and payments to a Treasury technology platform. That's going to continue to grow. Many of your tier one banks already they all have APIs in place. The tier two banks have been building those out. We're starting to see even the smaller banks are working on APIs. So the Treasury technology has been playing catch up, but they are catching up. We're going to see that continue to advance over the next several years. So the use of APIs for connection to move information between systems seamlessly and very securely. Another tool that can be used from a technology standpoint is blockchain or distributed ledger technology, DLT. So these are like decentralized digital systems that records and verifies transactions across multiple networks. So you can have a variety of participants that are on those platforms. It enhances transparency and security. The blockchain is a specific type of DLT And so it creates a chain of blocks, building blocks, for lack of a better term, that makes it immutable and provides peer-to-peer transactions. So there's no third-party verification that's needed. So for organizations that are, concerned about validation, or making sure that the party you're transacting with is good to go, you don't need a third party to verify it with the use of blockchain. Some of the other things I think that we're starting to see out there from a technology standpoint is with TMS platforms, we're starting to see them use a platform as a service. A lot of platforms that have historically been used have been SaaS-based. So it resides on the internet access to get to the platform. Platform as a service updates with those types of platforms are much easier to complete. And so you can have changes to the platform done within a much shorter period, which means that these newer platforms are going to come up to speed with the SaaS platforms over a much shorter period of time than what you might expect.
Okay, let's focus in on data and its relevance to forecasting. What are some challenges there, and what are some types and methods of forecasting?
Okay, so we talked about data, making sure that you're managing that appropriately, having an architecture, tools that can help you, having a single source of truth. So what we see from a forecasting standpoint as challenges for Treasury teams is understanding the cash flows and how they change over time. What's going on with the business lines, clients and vendors. Is there anything that's material there? What's static, what's not? Gathering the right data for the type of forecast you're trying to do. Is it something that's low volume but high impact, or high volume and low individual impact? So you got to understand the type of data that you're forecasting. You got to take different approaches for what you're going after. Managing the forecast data workflow process is also important. Flow of information. You want to make sure it's current, consistent information, the data, so that single source of truth and the data architecture or the data management is going to be super important. You have that down, it eliminates that problem. Selecting the right forecasting methods, I kind of alluded to that just a little bit ago. Having category flow, whether it's operating, investment, cash, sales, just understand what it is that you are working on. What are the relevant characteristics? Improving the forecasting model comes with variance analysis. So you have your actuals, you want to compare them to what you forecasted. So that's really important. So what are the types of forecasts? Well, there's short-term cash forecasting. This is something that's really near-term, typically something that you might consider as a balance sheet. We're looking at cash. Time horizon is typically 1 to 12 months. On the shorter term, from a Treasury standpoint, first 30 days of the forecast is going to be more detailed, probably a lot more accurate than what you have out on month 12. Month 12 may be a higher level type forecast. So you want to focus on cash that you have available and how it's going to be used. Sources and uses of cash. And there's capital plan, which is also balance sheet focused. This has a longer time horizon. It's, how are you going to fund the operations that are beyond just revenues that the company generates. So these are balance sheet supporting instruments. This could be contingent capital, a revolver, perhaps it's senior debt or some other type of funding. And then there's FP&A, which is income statement related. So this is a lot different than a cash forecast. So cash forecast is just that cash. FP&A ties to financial statements. It's a longer time horizon, typically 3 to 5 years. What do you think is going to happen in the future? So what are the methods for completing forecasts? A simple approach would be utilizing Excel, using averages, weighted averages, frequency, timing, getting historical information to help inform how things have trended, and utilizing internal sources where you work with business unit leaders to get an idea of what I think is going to happen in the future. There's also more individual look that can dovetail as part of the Excel based. It's what's low volume but high impact or large value. These are things that are scheduled. It could be tax payments. It could be debt funding payments. It could be perhaps things that come up within a short time frame. It could be an M&A transaction. It could be something else. And then there's complex, which is regression analysis. It's taking large volumes of data and running regression analysis with that information. You're looking for low or high value items to inform what the forecast, where adjustments might need to be made. And of course, there's also the use of AI and machine learning we talked about earlier. This also will help with large volumes of data and information, as well as value of certain data points. And so lastly, what I'd like to hit on are the forecast modeling techniques. Time series model, I talked about regression analysis. Think about time series modeling. This is something that would be based on a month of the year or day of the week or week of the month, or something that happens on an annual basis. So it's those things that are time-based. You identify patterns. It could be seasonality of sales. There could be some type of correlation between data points, or the statistical analysis run through the regression analysis, and then time series decomposition, which is forecasting for that seasonality or trends. So you break it out into blocks of things that you can identify, things that are trended. Your sales, let's say your sales tend to drop early in the new year. They pick up in the spring and the summer, and they start tearing down in the fall, with a pickup maybe towards the end of the year, and it starts doing something like that again. That would be an example of seasonality. So you're looking for patterns, long-term movements, reoccurring cycles. What is going on with the information that you have? And then of course there's running models and doing back testing. This is important. So if you have a model for forecasting, one thing that you want to do is you want to back test it and see how it does compared to the actual information that you have. If it's tying relatively close to it, if it has a correlation that models along with it, that's great. If it doesn't, then you need to find, okay, where's the shortfall in the information? Is there something that you're missing? Maybe you're not missing something. Maybe it's introduction of new information that wasn't there before. It could be new products. Maybe you bought a new business. Maybe you sold off a business. There's lots of things that can impact it, but you definitely want to run a back test on your models. Also recommend doing sensitivity analysis on key variables that can impact a forecast, as well as with the scenarios. Make sure you map out scenarios that make sense. You want to have scenarios that tie to what direction the business might go, or things that maybe from micro or macro basis could have an impact on the business itself. And then finally, anywhere that you could automate your analysis, you want to do that. And when it comes to variance analysis, which is really important, compare actuals to estimates. It gives you information so that you can go back to the forecast and make adjustments to improve your forecast. Be able to tweak for areas where you had information, or at least you felt like you had enough information to make an accurate forecast, and the actual information that came in different finding out why that was can help you make adjustments for any lack of data points that you had before, have a better forecast to make better or more informed decisions. So between understanding data, utilizing technology, having the right architecture in place, single source of truth, modeling and back testing your forecast, understanding the type of forecast that you're trying to do, I think it's really going to help you. And we do have a lot of customers a lot of clients that ask about forecasting or are looking to do forecasting improvements. It's not an easy task, but it's very doable with the right framework and the right technology in place.
Well, thank you, Paul. Thank you for helping us to get our Treasury data to better work for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Treasury Update Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Weeks. We'll see you next time.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Treasury Update Podcast. Be sure to follow Strategic Treasurer on LinkedIn. Just search for Strategic Treasurer. This podcast is provided for informational purposes only, and statements made by Strategic Treasurer LLC on this podcast are not intended as legal, business, consulting, or tax advice. For more information, visit and bookmark strategictreasurer.com.